this evening to bring on our sixth speaker in our Teens, Tools, and Hope Parent and Educator series tonight. It's Dr. Yendre Shen, and she is a single mom of 2 school-age children. Her goal is, as a parent, that experiences is to create the first love affair experiences, that teach her children how to love themselves and be themselves. I was just saying earlier, this is a quote from Yendre that, and I love it. It's, our lives are the sum of our decisions. Good decisions come from aligning our whole self, our heart, mind, body, and soul. And her desire is to build a tribe of families who want to transform their ancestral past and design the future that will shape the prosperity of each generation that follows. I love that. Welcome, Yendre, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I feel very honored to be part of this community.
Well, we're so happy to have you, and I'll let you continue with the beautiful words that you started before we began.
Well, thanks for having me. I mean, I'd love to have any questions, but I was just talking about how powerful we are. Sometimes we don't recognize that each and every one of our consciousness actually holds the reality we're experiencing together, you know? So if we collectively believe in one thing, that thing becomes real, right? And why we want to revisit our ancestral past is because what we have been through shapes the present. And if we don't know where we came from, it's really unconscious in terms of understanding where we're going, you know. So it's being very purposeful. And, you know, our entire, I guess, point of being in this experience is to discover and learn and grow and really expand in our awareness and consciousness. That's sort of the essence of being on this human journey, you know?
Yeah, I love that you bring it up to the ancestral past, and you know what we've been going through the last number of years is bringing to light for some of us what's been in the dark that we haven't known about and perhaps have been afraid to uncover. So I love the work that you're doing that is bringing this look into our past and how we can bring our best selves to the ongoing future for our teens and our adolescents in our life.
Yes, I was saying about how important it is that we can raise a generation, kind of breaking the cycle of things that are passed down unconsciously due to what histories we went through, what traumas we go through. We don't know. Often as parents, we feel something very painful that we are doing to our children. We can't stop ourselves because we're just mirroring our own childhood experiences. And then as a parent, we're awakened to what our childhood is and behave the way that we were treated and find like appalled that we are treating our children. And it's a great opportunity to be awakened to this and heal it. And I mean, there are so many gifts in having a child in your life because it's an opportunity to revisit your childhood. I think many parents have this, you know, it's like a second chance, right, at your own childhood, you know. And so it's also really a magnificent gift to have an opportunity to see the world through a child's eye because everything is new. And they're offering us perspective that we sometimes have become indoctrinated with ideas that I often remind parents that the child is teaching you as much as you think you're teaching the child, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in fact, it's actually good for you to be refreshed by the perspective of the child than you trying to instruct everything you know about the world to the child, because this world is just a construct. It's fabricated. It's made up by our minds. You know, in some way, we're living in someone else's mind, just like why are houses and rooms the way it is? It's someone's mind that constructed, and we all just went along with that, you know? So I think what I feel there is such an important role that our children play, because they can serve as visionaries to things that we cannot see because we kind of are stuck in already been in this world, right? So that's why I mean breaking the cycle is to not keep passing down maybe very limiting ideas and maybe very harmful belief systems, you know?
Yeah, and could you give us an example, Yendra? I hear what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. It's a lofty concept to think that it's all made up. I agree with you. And in our everyday lives, it's good to be reminded that it's all made up, and a shift in our perspective, or us having the willingness to listen to our youth in our midst, their fresh perspective, can give us that shift. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
I love to tackle this, because if you think from your own life experience, much of the world that you take on as truth or solid and real are often just simply things told to you that this is how it is. Like, you have not really did the research or exploration or experiment to know the truth yourself. And you know, the whole point of the raising an intuitive child or being an intuitive parent is honor this innate design we possess of our connection. Like, we have our own direct internet connection with our creator, with God, you know, like we are born with this, and we tend to not talk about it, not really like we just automatically accept certain things. But this is something that is a non-physical source of perception we have. I mean, I'll just share perhaps my own journey to validate why I speak this way. I believe, it's not a belief, it's a feeling I have within myself, a certain knowing. Let me just use an example from animals, where like animals have the knowledge of where to go, what to do, you know, like birds fly over the, you know, ocean to, you know, go to another continent. Like, they never had the experience, but yet they know what to do. So we possess equally that kind of knowledge in us. Like, our DNA is pretty much the entirety of our history, a book written in a biological format, right? So I guess my purpose is to help people really trust what they're feeling, what they remember, what they sense is like a deep sort of knowing, and to trust those kind of instincts or perceptions, because there is a lot to this world beyond the physical, and we are only taught to trust what's physical. And I really want to have parents understand the profound spiritual relationship that is involved in raising a child. You know, it is a love affair. And the thing is, when we have this beautiful love affair with our parents as a child, you carry that inside of you. It's part of like your heart code, where you can go on and know how to recognize a good relationship and how to create a good relationship. I mean, I often speak that we have a never-ending love affair with ourselves. Our entire relationship with other people is ultimately our own personal love affair with us, with ourselves, you know? And people focus too much like, oh, it's this person. But it's really an exposing you to this spectrum of emotion that you can experience within yourself. Because the truth is, everyone is living out of their own mind concept of what the world is. It's like we exist in our own personal universe. And by what we're told and accept as truth, you know, you see now people have a perception of being fearful about their environment and need to wear masks because of what we're told during COVID, right? So now that is a perception of belief in that person's mind, and they're manifesting it by you seeing them wearing the mask. That's what I mean. We are collectively agreeing and fabricating a world. And it's important that you have awareness that's what's going on, because the minute you shift, and if we have collective number of people enough to shift, we can create something very powerful that's different to the one that exists now. And it can happen very quick. But it does require collaboration, because our reality is co-created, you know? I mean, yes, you can create your own, like a child has an imaginary friend, and children love pretending. You just watch them play. They're always, let's pretend this, let's pretend that. They're doing it all the time. And we don't even know, as adults, we're pretending too. But we think it's real compared to the child. But it's the same mechanism.
Wow.
It's exactly the same.
That's amazing. And I love that we are one and the same. My question to you, Yendre, is, does it have to be a sustained consciousness held in the collective for that shift to take place?
It has to be enough people having the same level of awareness. Remember, I think it's the story regarding the native, when the ship or Columbus, when they arrived, and they never seen it before, so they didn't know how to perceive it because it never appeared in their mind to see what it is, But the moment you see it, then everyone sees it. And they even have studies where, like, one animal, say, an ape who learned a skill, and somehow that skill gets passed down, right? So every one of us, as we do this work, we actually are transmitting it, and more people get it. I see it a lot when I have a thought and I'm thinking something like insight, and then someone starts talking about it, So we are already connected. Like, we have our own version of the internet that is not the physical, format. It exists before that one is created. Mm-hmm. That's why you see, before we have, telecommunications or any other way to communicate with other cultures, you see same ideas that exist, And I guess I just want to strengthen this confidence in knowing this is real. You see, we don't understand how powerful our attention, when we give to something, is. It allows that to expand and exist. Like, for example, we have stopped using landlines, right? Because people slowly focus away from using it and find it's no longer needed, right? So this technological shift happens because we shifted our attention. We have shifted our attention to owning, like, physical books, right? And I find that to be a big danger, to not have physical things, because as the generation who's familiar with growing up with actual physical books, and we have more new generation adapt the virtual, then at some point there'll be no longer physical books, because then there is no more printing of it, making of it. There's no business. So where we focus our attention gives life to that thing. And that's why your attention is constantly being captured and focused on what they want you to buy. And, like all these Fitbit commercials, when I see, ads, and they are moving your consciousness into the direction where they want humanity to go. So it's very powerful where you decide to give your attention to. And where you're shown to go is not necessarily what is the best evolution of humanity, and that's what I'm really trying to get at with this intuitive parenting, because you feel it, because you get the immediate response of whether this feels good in the loving relationship and connection or not. You know, the basic foundation of tuna parenting is always maintain your connection and communication. These are the most profound skills. If you look at a lot of family where there are rifts or difficulty in being close, is that they lose connection because there's some misunderstanding, there is hurt feelings, and then we only feel we can manage by not being together. We separate. So that's one form of trauma, right? When we feel abandoned or separated, feeling separation, or not understanding why there was a separation, things like that. And then because you are apart, you're not able to exchange words, and words are required to create. You know, it's very hard to create without, because it's sound. Things are created by sound. You need the words. So a child, all these steps that they are developing and learning these skills is very key to shaping them as a creative, powerful being. You know, so the whole goal is that you never lose your connection and you always find a language for communication. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're not aiming for perfect. We're just ensuring we practice. The whole point is that we just keep practicing and that we learn every time based on what we practice and what result we get, you know, and it's not about being perfect.
And I love that it's a practice. We know about practice. We know about a yoga practice. We know about practicing for sporting events. We know about practicing our assignments in the world. I love that you say, because creation does begin with voice and word. Can I ask you, Yendre, where does the power of thought fit in that hierarchy of creation?
Well, there are several things that come together, right? There is thoughts and emotions, and then there's choice, right? You have choice. And you only understand your choice if you are actually aware, because we're always creating out of our thoughts and emotions. So your state of mind of where your emotions tend to be and where your thoughts to be, that is being manifested in your physical life form. What it looks like is like all, and what actions you're taking is originates from those first. You know, so that's why we talked before about, you know, having like maintaining your vibe or maintaining your, you know, those are important because it opens up what you focus on.
And what you focus on grows stronger in your life, as we have heard. How does that relate to, you know, we had our speaker last time, I think it was Reverend Leon from Agape, and he talked about seeing the butterfly in the child as opposed to the caterpillar. So how does that concept of,
oh, I love that.
Isn't that great? How does that beautiful concept of voice, words, and thoughts and emotions affect the adolescence in your life?
Well, I think we sometimes don't give the importance of what we are projecting at somebody. You know, like when a child's very small, they immediately take in how you look at them, how you speak to them, what they think that's them, right? They sort of take that on. So I talk about the connection. It's that love gaze, like when a person, a mother, like when you hold a baby, there's this natural love and gaze. You shine upon that baby and the baby sees it and they immediately see that, oh, that is me. You know, like that feeling, that projected energy is me, and they take it in and they embody that as a sense of them. So we have to think the same way with adolescence, because adolescence is this sort of awkward space, right? This sort of in-between space where you're kind of, you know, a child, but you're discovering that you're leaving this space. There's a lot of awkwardness in terms of changing in yourselves, being more self-conscious and aware, and, you know, being more connected with your peers, or, you know, maybe seeing your parents' flaws, and, you know, noticing there's hypocrisy in the adult world, and, you know, trying out stuff, exerting your own taste and style, and, feeling accepted or not. Like there's a lot of, it's a very confusing space, but it's also a very, it is like that transformation, right? The metamorphosis. And it is so important as parents, no matter how your child presents themselves, to never lock them in to their worst moments. Because, I mean, that's why I love that statement about seeing your child as the butterfly, right? Meaning you give them space to recreate themselves or have a choice of not being stuck as that worst version of themselves when there maybe is, hungry and angry and cranky and feeling moody. Like, we're fluid. We're always having an opportunity to transform ourselves if we make that choice. And it's not an easy choice. It takes a lot of courage. It takes, willpower. There's lots of things involved to, I mean, we spoke about where, our lives are basically a collection of all the choices we made. And the biggest challenge in relationship and, parent and child is that we want our children to make good choices. We want our partner to make good choices. We feel good when those around us are making good choices because they're getting good results. Because when we love someone, we like to see good things happen for them. And, how do we hang out when, they're not quite there yet, right? And we are sometimes not quite there yet, And so we basically cheer for each other to, make that choice that's maybe not the easy one, but it gives us the good results, So I guess with adolescents is, again, you still look at them with that loving gaze, even though they're awkward, so you shine that on them, and that you can talk about stuff. Like my daughter she knows what she wants. She's very confident about how she wants to present it. So she has some things that are much, a few steps ahead of sometimes children of her age. She's 14, like she knows how she wants to dress. I'm grateful that she's so clear and confident, but in terms of her father's eyes, he's looking at her with some discouragement about her choice of already putting on makeup and so I have to soften that bridge, like you have to watch how you're looking at her, and then because we are always very open with each other, my daughter will reflect back at her father how he's looking at her, so he sees it. It's so fun. So then he catches himself, right? Because he's looking at her with disapproval, So we get to mirror each other. It's good to see ourselves because that's the whole point, right? Our whole point of witnessing our own reaction is to like, oh, it's a moment for me to see myself here, right? So yeah, how do we guide her so that, being aware how you present yourself, this, it's just a question, it's just a query, so that she is able to think about what choices she wants instead of like telling her this should be the way you want, like that's not helping her develop a skill. That is training her to be obedient, there's place for obedience. I really feel the obedience is with the relationship with God, our creator, because there is greater wisdom there. That's the hard part, right? Being obedient to that, that's the challenge of obedience, but not being obedient to like authority or someone that, not in that way, because you're not thinking for yourself. You're not deciding for yourself with an understanding why you're making this choice, right? I think it's more important that you know why you're making a choice than sort of blindly, listening and choosing because someone told you so, right?
Yes. Does anybody have any questions thus far? Yendre wanted to speak freely and organically, and you can ask questions anytime you want. You can raise your hand or just put your emoji up and we can call on you if anybody has any questions.
I think some good examples of, like this weird situation comes up and intuition, you have an intuition, and, wow, it makes the connection. But I just want to say this one thing. I made a really good deal about trying to teach my daughter to trust her intuition. It's so important because she grew up in the stranger danger era. And, you can't, don't leave your glass. Someone might put something in it, And so teaching people to trust their intuition, and someone could be smiling at you, but something tells you don't trust them, trust.
I talk about this all the time because we're born with these abilities. We have abilities that are part of who we are. So definitely tap into them, right? So this is how I teach my kids about their intuition, that their body can read information and you can feel whether something, feels safe or good, or you don't quite know. And my whole message is to have confidence to listen. Like, believe in whatever you're sensing instead of doubting, right? Like, don't talk yourself out of it. And then learn from each time. I also teach my kids to muscle test if they want to practice muscle testing. And we play games. We play intuitive games. There's an app that, so we do lots of things that are fun in playing with this realm of, sensing information or foretelling information if you want to. But yeah, trust your body. Your body's telling you something feels good or not good, because the body message is always yes or no, right? So you relax, or you tense up, or you're moving forward, or you're leaning away. Like, this body language is revealing. Your body's talking to you all the time. So yeah, definitely. And then talk about it. If you're not sure, speak to somebody, because the conversation unravels more of a situation that you're picking up, that you just don't have the words yet, right? And you use this to also read people. You can use it to read people and understand people and figure out a situation. And you can talk about a situation if you had an experience together. I talk about this all the time too, because my kids and I watch shows together and we look at a situation, what do you think about that? Were those friends, a good group of friends, or did they, like we just use all the daily examples to deepen this awareness in my, in my kids. That's how I do it. I think conversation is so important. There's so many things that sometimes we just never talk about it. And if you do, you're adding to that knowledge in your child's world, right? In their minds. Let them know about, we talk about intention. You can feel someone's intention. You can feel when someone is, just being kind. There's no attachment, right? Or someone is wanting something for you. Like, you can feel the energy. You can feel it. So learn to read it. Listen to how it, how you're picking up that information. And the kids are good. The kids are born with this. If you look at children, they didn't have words and language, but they can comprehend. They have deep. I mean, when you look at a parent and a child, like, the child understands everything without having the words yet. They, so we're born with it. We're using it right away anyhow. So why not just, talk about it? Why not identify it? Why not speak about it and make it more a practical, real, useful tool and phenomenon that it is?
I love that it's a tool, and I love that we can talk about it, bringing it more, as you say, putting your attention on something brings it more into reality. And when we talk about it, that it's a tool that we can use in parenting, in educating, in leading. And thank you. I love that concept.
Well, the thing is, we are doing it even before, right? Everyone's doing it. It's just that we just don't talk about it. We're silently doing it on our own, and we kind of sometimes say it in almost like a secretive way, But why not just make it really out in the open that this is something we all possess and we are meant to use it, it's there for you to serve you and help you.
Talk about curriculum of the now and what's needed to talk about and craft and practice.
Yeah, I would love that if this is just something that is taught and is part of what children grow up accepting as what they are, like it's normal, like this is the natural self being, and it's just a normal thing. That would be amazing. I mean, it seems so like that it ought to have been like this all along anyhow, right?
It says it's Beverly. Hi. It's
Hi.
great hearing you talk. I completely agree with you. And yeah, it seems to me that they have created a curriculum in the public schools and throughout even universities to definitely ignore intuition and to find these hard science facts that actually aren't even, science is even more flexible than they make it seem. So it seems like, yeah, we need to, definitely the school system is not going to bring us towards intuition, the traditional school system. So yeah, I highly recommend for parents to at least try to, yeah, it's really hard because the school system is such a strong pull because there are so many hours a day. So it's either you take them out and you really, are you really kind of, I guess, what would you say if there's a parent dealing with, they're in the public school and there is such a pull to not ever, and to kind of almost make fun if you were able to think of something as intuition or, oh, I can't see it. What is that,
Well, I love this question because the parents have to see themselves as in control, right? The parents have to be empowered to know that their children's education is part of how they raise their children, what they tell their like we're being programmed, whether we know it or not. It's better that we're in control of programming, and as a parent you might as well be in control of programming, otherwise other people programming your child, right? So I think it's good to understand that's what's going on, because we do need to insert information into the child to understand the world. And it's best that you, if you're aware, that you be the one that input the information so that your child begin to see things align with you. Because this is very important too, in some way, by not engaging in the educating of your children by talking to them and telling them and being aware of what they're learning, is handing over the imprinting of the worldview of your child by someone else, that eventually can cause a rift between you and your child, which is not the point of the intuitive parenting. Is to really be very connected in a spiritual way with your child, and understanding these aspects of the spiritual world, and intuition. A lot of things there's much more to the unseeable world than the seeable world, right? So like love, can you see love? Like there's lots of things you can see that we accept that it's real and it's present. So a lot of those arguments that are used on the very, quote unquote scientific, is kind of flawed, because science is just a tool to verify things we can't see and don't know yet. So to then collapse that science is actually more valid is kind of now saying the tool is more real than the thing. We have to not get diminished by an error. It's actually an error in that argument. And if you understand that the error is trying to be more right than the truth of reality, then you totally have given up understanding your power, right? So I think it's a journey to trust in these knowledge, and then give your child the opportunity to experience it so they're confident in it themselves.
Manu, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, just a comment. Thank you so much for all the thought-provoking ideas. I was thinking also about sort of the vocabulary of feelings and needs.
That's, yeah.
Looking into, I work with children with disabilities, and it's amazing how when I speak to parents about making a communication board, that they really don't know how many feelings there are. And it's, for example, the words "I feel like," that's not a feeling. So name the feeling. What really is there? So that was one comment. And then I forgot my other comment, so it's okay.
Oh, this is a really good one. It's a really good one to be able to name our feelings. Often, like every child's different, and a lot of this work is to honor the child as they are, because it's not a good feeling for a human being to feel who they are is somehow wrong, or somehow, because that's just a concept that's put in the mind. It's not the truth, right? So we're helping a child to, we want to see the butterfly, meaning we are constantly transforming, evolving, and there's choices they're making to help us. The naming of the feeling is something that the parent can start with helping the child do. And slowly the child will just know how to use that language. And it's amazing when the child's connected, they actually are very in tune and can say things. The very basic emotions are often experienced, is really anger and sadness. And often those two can be experienced together. And so it's kind of confusing because you're kind of angry, that you're mad and sad. So mad and sad is, common, very common. And we feel it all the time. We don't even know it. Like adults, we feel it too. And we may not be in touch to even name our own feelings. And then there is fear, right? Or worry, or, so this is a language we are processing and, sensing around us all the time. But to have the word is useful in labeling so that we're not just free floating with the energy of the feelings, so we can name it and then we can learn to process. Like, the energy is constantly changing. So you're riding like a wave when you feel an emotion, so it's good to help a child understand that there are, a sudden, arising, and then it can, you're like surfing a wave. It's like really big and intense. And then sometime it can fade, so it's good to know that this is how the energy flows. And sometimes, a child needs time. You can approach the child later when they're calmer, or when a child's in a state of emotion and they're not talkative, or you can just go up to them or snuggle them and say, oh, you're feeling kind of disappointed that you didn't get this outcome, or, and you can immediately sense when the child feels that you get them, they kind of begin to let go of holding on to that feeling, because someone understands me, and they can process it. So feeling misunderstood, or feeling disappointed, or it's good to name it. And as I said, the constant working skill is maintain connection, and then communication. Communication is a key. If you look at a lot of relationships or families, they're actually lacking this tool, having good communication. People think they have communication because they may be talking, but often you'll see a family, everyone's talking, but it's actually not really, conversation. It's just everyone's talking over each other, or the conversation is based on just how to instruct people what to do. It's not a kind of idea sharing and expressing. It's more like, instructional and directional, and, kind of giving commands. So it's important to understand there's different qualities of the use. Who's speaking?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I was just to add, don't you think that has to do with a parent who probably has not learned to speak that way, or to be heard themselves, or to a parent who doesn't even know how to give themselves empathy. You know, why did I just react that way? What's going on for me? It reminded me of a situation when, you know, all those skills, they need to be learned with the adults first, I think.
Well, we miss, a lot of us miss some of those opportunities to learn it as adults. So we get to, as I said in the beginning, we get a second chance as a parent to learn it with our children or a child. You are correct. Often the way we're parenting our child is basically the way we were raised, right? We're just reliving the experience when we become the parent, what our childhood was like, and we see now how we were treated. It's not how we want to treat our, you know, child or children. So you are correct. We are at the level, but it's an opportunity to learn with our child, right? And it is true, you know, it is hard to not have had those language and then try with a child. That's why I do this work, is to help parents through those gaps and bridges, because we do need practice. We do need someone to guide, to understand what's going on, because it's confusing. You know, it's confusing because there's so much emotion. You're dealing with, you know, wanting to be a good parent, but finding it really hard to practice those skills. And then you feel really bad about not able to be the version of parent you like to be. And then you see the impact on your child, and, you know, but we're resilient, you know, we're resilient. And as I said, we're not working toward perfection. We're willing to practice, to know what are the tools to develop. And as we do this work, we're improving it for the next generation. So that's the ultimate objective. If you focus on that, eventually, you know, we are making progress.
Yeah, thank you. There's hope.
Yes, yes.
I just want to say a point.
Aware. Yeah, the fact that you are focusing on and you're aware, and you are gonna, you know, you see results. I mean, this is the beauty of this work. If you just continue on working on the right areas, eventually you see the results. It's not always immediate, because this is the kind of work that you don't get instant gratification out of the results all the time, but over time you see the product of, you know, who your child is, you know, how, yeah.
I was just going to say something like, let's say a parent doesn't really, is disconnected from a kid or something like that. If, you know, I think if they just spend quality time and have fun, right, the love can open up. And then with that love, automatically comes the connection, you know. So,
yes. So, you see, a child, I mean, we all are seeking love, like that connection. To feel love is knowing that you are connected, right? And so we're all kind of looking for that experience, or wanting to have the experience. And you get this beautiful opportunity as a parent to create the experience with your child, and to let go of all the judgments that sometimes keep you away from feeling that. And that's the practice. You know, we can discern that I love you, but I don't like your choices, right? Like, what I meant connection is to help the child discern they're always love. There's always love. But it doesn't mean I like your choices or the way you choose to behave. Like, because in the end goal, the skill is about self-mastery and self-control, you know, but we don't want to sever love connection to manipulate the child, because manipulation is not a good tool to use on helping someone know how to make good choices. That just creates choices out of fear, choices out of repercussion, or just to get, like, we want the expansion of awareness of seeing how this choice is the choice that's good. And I'm doing it because I want to, or I see it's good for me. Is that, so the experience between the parent and the child is that the love is never absent, even when we don't like each other. So it can look like we can always hug or be close, even if I'm not happy with your choice. And sometimes I have to be okay with that, because you're a different person and you have your own experience and journey. So long it's not dangerous. I mean, the parents all the ultimately in control, in the sense that, they're responsible, right? They have to,
There was someone, one of our past speakers, I think Beverly or Manu, you might have been here, and it was a great line. And I think, Beverly, you might remember this. It was, I love you enough to know that you don't love me right now, as a parent to a child. I love you so much that it's okay that you don't feel like you love me right now, or you're angry with me. Was that how it went?
Yeah,
Beverly?
that was it. And I think that it particularly applies to when a child's becoming more of a teen and getting their wings, and they're needing to kind of, that almost natural rebellion comes in, and that a way for a parent to kind of keep an even keel if they can, and to accept their child. Yeah, I resonated with that when you have a teen.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead with your thought.
I think there is something that builds this connection and confidence.
Roshan, both are getting sound.
I'm getting it.
Oh, I think there's somebody, maybe you could go on mute because we're having some background noise.
I was saying it builds something
Thank you.
very confident in the bond a child feels with a parent when they experience you loving them when they're not their best. I think that's sort of the test of the strength of love, right? When you're not perfect, when you're, that you're not loved conditionally because you're this perfect, whatever it is that, you're doing to have the love, because like this work, the goal is that we don't train our children to sell themselves out for love, because we do lots of things not knowing we're sacrificing something greater, right? And this is something we don't want to unconsciously teach our child.
In a way, Yendre, it's as though your adolescent or your child, your teen, is perhaps inviting you to be true to a practice that will serve you, parent, in every relationship of your life.
Absolutely.
So this is about a parent and a child. And isn't that child offering us, that teen in your life at those hard times, an opportunity for us to dig deep and do the work so that we can understand that muscle memory, so that we can be that way in our world, so that we can then, as you suggest, Yendre, raise our vibe,
Yes.
so that we can then add to the collective ascension.
Yes, absolutely. It's to not give into the, negative, angry, hateful feelings, because that damages. When we hurt another, we're hurting ourselves, right? We just don't know it. So if we recognize that is never the direction to create more love in the world, then we have to flex that muscle, whatever it takes, to remain in this loving space. And the loving space isn't always romantic, right? It's not always that kind of, I don't know, cotton candy, sort of seen here. There's much more range and spectrum that you can bring the presence of love in. That's, the whole expansion of understanding, that it's not limited to the way that we may be taught and shown, right? And it's for you to experience it, to know it. And then the fact that you give your child this experience, it gives them that knowing now in them. And then they can also do it.
Wow. It's deep and yet it's simple.
Exactly. Very good.
It's true and yet it's vague. And it starts with that mother and the newborn's gaze of I see you, and the child knows who they are. And I could just imagine with the parents that I know that have teens, that it's a very challenging time. And maybe that is the time to really forge parents into being their very best selves, when they commit to that practice, that ongoing practice of reflection. So you're saying, I believe, Yendre, you're asking parents to reflect a little bit more, to take that pause, to, when you're in your day-to-day life, how do you handle when you're in the midst of challenge and frustration with your teen? Do you take that pause? How do you yourself deal with that? And I would imagine it's different with different situations.
Yes, every situation, every family, every child, it's all different. So there's no benefit to say, compare yourself with this or that, and it's also be watchful if you have more than one child to not create favoritism. Okay. Because it then causes, corrosion in the bond you can create with each child. Each child is helpful to feel that they're loved for who they are. And the thing to help set the foundation is that communication and agreement. So we talked about, always maintain your connection, because without connection, you actually can't have communication. That's the important thing to know, right? Because if you can't be able to look each other in the eye, you're not really being receptive and listening, right? And then once you can actually have communication, you can create agreements. The whole point is to create agreements. And once you have agreements, then the last thing is the hardest part, is to fulfill on those agreements, which means now you're held to an end of what you agreed to. And that's the biggest part to the practice, So, my daughter, I applaud her for her accomplishments, in the sense that, she wants to put herself together well in the morning. So she wakes up early and she takes full responsibility of that, which is great, awesome, And so you praise the child when they do make these conscious decisions to get what they want and structure their life the way that, allows them to feel they're succeeding. And sometimes you have a child that isn't like that. And then my conversation would be, you're creating this. Like, they have to see they're responsible for creating the outcome, right? I play my part, I fulfill my part. Now the rest is on you. Like, I'm not going to, you're not a puppet. I can't stick my hand inside of you and make you do things. And you wouldn't want me to do that anyhow. So you got to make yourself do it. Like, you're the one to have to get yourself out of bed. Okay. You can make that choice right now, so like, every child's different, and you just help them along, right? The whole point is that they practice and they learn to see they're making this choice to get this result or that result, and what is it they want.
And Yendre, we have about 7 or 8 minutes or so. We can certainly take some more questions. I would like to have you say how people can get a hold of you. I have ndshen@yahoo.com in the chat. And you had mentioned earlier, please tell a little bit about your the Intuitive Parent Telegram group, your Facebook group, and if they wanted to text you, a number that I can put in the chat.
Sure. I really am looking for parents who want to raise the future generation of young people that, are courageous to really see the truth and develop the tools in themselves to see the truth, because you possess that ability, and I can definitely train people to grasp it when in a mental way, you know, so that you have that skill set and you can actually know how you're doing it and why it works and why it's true and all that. Because we are in a position that it become very clear that humanity might create a split, you know, and there might be a path that we have to consciously choose which direction we want to go. And there is a lot of healing. There's a lot of healing to come in terms with our ancestral past and how that we are unconsciously passing down things that program into us, and that we can end that cycle. We can consciously end that cycle so that we can have a generation not tethered to some of that trauma that they have to carry, you know. I mean, well, some of it will still be there, but they'll have the skill sets and the greater level of awareness and consciousness, and then that parents are not doing it to leave that imprint. There's that Telegram group. That group is really for me to share information with parents that maybe never see this information because mainstream or whatever, it's just never shows it to them, right? Because we do, until we have certain knowledge become common knowledge, we actually can break free from the reality we live in. So that's what that channel is for, is just to, you know, share with you information that you may not know about. And we do need people who are willing to view that information, to hold on to a new understanding of what information our world is real or fabricated. Yeah, so that's.
And
I
you have a Facebook group also, right?
Yeah, I do have a Facebook group, and not as active there, but I do have also a call once a week with parents.
Morning call, did you say?
Yeah, I have a call that I have with parents that I talk about, you know, the natural laws, just to understand how energy works.
And how do people become a part of that morning call group?
Well, they can reach out to me and see if they're a good fit, if that's what they want. It's usually by a yearly membership. It's $500 for yearly membership, and it's it's a weekly call, and we really develop. We do healing circles. We actually do certain healing of looking at our own, you know, life or childhood. Like, just you need to begin to know your own personal life and how that story has been formed. And how does that play out? Because you're unconsciously playing out a drama in your life. I guess in some way your drama is, you know, your trauma becomes, you know, it's the drama and trauma is basically mirroring itself, right? And so it's just becoming aware. So that's one thing that someone get involved. So there's many different. I mean, in that space is where I really do the more intimate and teaching, you know, and people get to share, and everyone's participation adds to the whole. And that's the thing, like we're never doing this alone, and you can't really do it alone.
And so they can get in touch with you from ndshen@yahoo.ca.
Yeah, and I'll leave you my number as well if people want to message me. That's easy.
You want to give it to me right now, and I'll put it in?
Yeah, I'll give it to you right now. I'll do that.
Awesome. So while Yendre is sharing that, does anybody have any final questions for her? And I'll then give you a little bit of a sneak peek at our next speaker. It's a husband and wife who I'm very good friends with, and it's in 3 weeks. It's 3 Tuesdays from today. That's Megan Bruce Lupin. Any last questions for Yendre?
Just real quick, do you have a webpage, or it's basically through your email?
I have not created my webpage. No, so it's just my email.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to share the screen right now so we can take a peek just quickly. These are some of the people that we've had already, and wonderful speakers. And Yendre, thank you so much. June 6th is our next time to reconvene. Bruce and Meg Lupin, and they're going to be talking about holistic solutions to mental health, addiction, and social media usage in teens. So you see, we cover so much of the inward and the outward. And Yendre, you've added so much to our speaker group. We thank you so much. Personally, I want to tell you that it's an absolute joy to know you, and you've added to my life immeasurably. And I thank you so much knowing you. And Beverly, you have your hand. Oh, you're clapping.
No, I'm just saying thank you. It's a little thank you clap.
Well, I love you, Yendre, and thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Yendre. It was really wonderful.